If you take the personal fortune of a Richard Branson, a Mark Cuban, a Simon Cowell, Jack Dorsey, Tim Cook, Jim Ratcliffe, Peter Jones, Phil Knight, Michael Jordan, Rupert Murdoch, Tiger Woods, and James Dyson, and you add them all up, you come to a staggering $108.1 billion. But here's the real shock. That's less than half the personal fortune of Bernard Arnault, the richest man in the world with a fortune of $221 billion. Bernard Arnault is the CEO of LVMH, the world's largest group of luxury brands like Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Dom Perignon. But Arnault isn't the founder of any of the 75 brands or houses in the LVMH portfolio. He doesn't even design the products. What he is an amazing businessman who has amassed more wealth than any human in history. This is his story, and what a story it is. People talk about tech companies being the best businesses in the world, but when you can sell a leather handbag for $10,000 or a bottle of champagne for $5,000, not to mention the markup on luxury fragrance, watches and clothing, it's hard not to look at the luxury sector as one hell of a business investment. Oh, and by the way, that $10,000 handbag or that luxury watch that you're buying is going to go up in value. Then there is the amazing history of the luxury sector. 170 years ago, Louis Vuitton, the man, was making trunks designed for the new innovation of railways. In post-war France, Christian Dior, the man, was revolutionizing fashion, and Mr. Dom Perignon himself was a real-life monk born way back in 1638. The story of Bernard Arnault and LVMH is intertwined with some of the fascinating people and historic families, but for the purpose of today, we're going to focus our attention on the man himself, Mr. Bernard Arnault. Arnault was born in 1948 in Roubaix, France. His family were entrepreneurs and ran an engineering company which employed close to 1,000 people, so this definitely isn't a story of someone coming from nothing. The Arnault family were truly successful. This is not rags to riches. As a result, Arnault had a first-class education, and by 22, he gained a degree in engineering before heading off to work for the family business. He was smart, very capable, and by 1976, his father decided to retire and leave the family company in his son's capable hands. One of his first big moves was to make a change in direction for the family business. Arnault sold off the engineering company and started developing property along the illustrious French Riviera. In the late 1970s, the French government introduced a wealth tax which directly led to Arnault deciding to leave the country and move to the States. He continued developing property, but now in Palm Beach. He is said to have found it difficult to settle in the US. He lived in New York, and it just so happened that his next door neighbor was a very wealthy US corporate raider whose main business was acquiring distressed companies, stripping them down, and selling off their assets. Arnault found the model fascinating and decided to return to France and look for companies to acquire. Now, at this point, we're going to put a quick pin in the Bernard Arnault timeline and travel back to the late 1940s post-war France, where a certain Monsieur Christian Dior was launching his first New Look collection. Dior created a fashion range that took the world by storm, and over the next 15 years grew it into a global icon at the top of the fashion industry. Licensing deals expanded the brand worldwide and led to unprecedented levels of revenue. However, Christian Dior died in the mid-1950s, and while the brand was able to survive its founder, its revenues continued to grow, but the business itself declined. By the time we reach the 1980s, where Bernard Arnault is looking for a business to acquire, Dior is part of a group of companies that have gone bankrupt and are under the control of the French government. What Dior did still have was an incredible brand name. Dior was for many people the #1 name in fashion, but it was losing money and the French government welcomed the opportunity to get rid of it. Arnault was able to agree a deal to buy Dior and the group of companies it was sat in for $60 million US. He did this by putting up $15 million of his own money from his family company and raising a further $45 million from the banks. At 35 years old, Arnault completed his acquisition and was the new owner of Christian Dior.
We try to build a large business with our partners with one criteria: the best quality and the most elitist product in every line that we are selling throughout the world.
Now, Dior was big, doing more than $1 billion US per year in revenue, but it was losing money. Arnault quickly restructured the company and laid off 9,000 of the 10,000 staff, taking a ton of bad press in the process. But it worked, and within 2 short years, he doubled revenue to $2 billion US and returned the business to profitability to the tune of $100 million. Alongside Dior itself, Arnault had acquired textile and industrial assets with the original acquisition, which after restructure he sold off, banking another $500 million in the process. But he was only just getting started. Now, American corporate raiders were looking for companies to take over, and in 1987, the family-controlled Louis Vuitton started to worry that they might be a target. So too did the drinks company Moet Hennessy. So the two companies joined together in a marriage designed to protect them both from losing control of their companies. This merger created the company known as LVMH. An opportunity then came for LVMH to take investment from Guinness. The Moet side of the group liked this move, but Louis Vuitton were worried that it would become a drinks company, so they turned to another French fashion brand in an attempt to balance out the structure. That brand, Christian Dior, and our man, Bernard Arnault. The problem, however, for both Louis Vuitton and Moet Hennessy was that when they met, it turned out that Bernard Arnault had more common ground with Guinness than either of the current owners of LVMH, and Guinness and Arnault teamed up to start buying stock in LVMH for themselves. Arnault agreed a deal with Guinness that would see the drinks company back him financially, but leave him in control. And in December 1988, Arnault goes all in, buying up stock in LVMH and finally getting control of the company. Now, this is said to have been a big risk for Arnault, who we believe risked his ownership in Dior to get the deal done. But in the long run, it has been the most incredible deal of his career. Even today, with 75 brands in the LVMH group, Louis Vuitton is responsible for 25% of sales. The Louis Vuitton handbag is the jewel in the crown. So, Bernard Arnault now owns Dior and LVMH, which is Moet Hennessy and Louis Vuitton. He is on his path, his journey towards building the world's first luxury group. Until now, the luxury brands had sold their products to department stores. The stores then sold the products at retail and made really good margins. The problem was that this limited the amount LVMH and Dior could make, so Arnault flipped it. They went to the department stores and said, rather than sell you our products wholesale, we want to rent space in your store. We will put staff in there and sell our products ourselves. You will get rent as our landlords, but we will get the retail margins. LVMH also made some other acquisitions very quickly in distribution and retail, like duty-free shops in airports. So, we're now in the early 90s and LVMH are flying. They're expanding into Asia, they're seeing their revenues grow faster than you can imagine, faster than you can even say handbag. But not everything goes to plan. Enter Gucci, the next iconic brand in the sights of Bernard Arnault. By the mid-90s, Gucci are in trouble, out of control licensing deals and management disarray. LVMH get a chance to acquire the business and agree a deal in principle for them to buy Gucci for $400 million. However, during due diligence, things at Gucci are far worse than expected and Arnault pulls out the deal, saying the company is basically worthless. Gucci needed a survival plan, and in a last throw of the dice they turned to a young, unknown designer, promoting him to head of design and giving him the challenge of turning around this failing brand. His name is Tom Ford. Tom Ford's Gucci range was a monumental success. It rejuvenated the brand and put Gucci back into deep profitability. By the late 90s, they were looking sexy again, and LVMH, having missed out before, once again went Gucci hunting. But this time, they weren't the only game in town. Both Prada and LVMH started buying up stock in the rejuvenated Gucci. Arnault was able to do a deal with Prada to buy up their shares in Gucci, but Gucci had their tail up and went into defense mode, creating an innovative employee stock scheme and moving a proportion of the company into it to limit LVMH's progress in their takeover. But they still needed a long-term solution, so Gucci turned to French businessman François-Henri Pinault, who acquired Gucci and made it the flagship brand in his new luxury fashion group, Kering, the biggest competitor to LVMH to this day. So, our man didn't get Gucci, but LVMH ended up selling the stock that they had bought for a $760 million profit, so not exactly a loss. Gucci was one acquisition that got away, but for the past 30 years, LVMH have been an acquisition machine, buying up luxury brand after luxury brand, strategic partner after strategic partner, all in a breathtaking effort to create this monster of a luxury group. A few significant acquisitions to mention: Dom Perignon in 1987, Givenchy in 1988, Kenzo in 93, Celine in 96, 1988 Marc Jacobs, Benefit in 1999, Tag Heuer in 1999, Fendi in 2001, DKNY in 2001, 2002 was Belvedere Vodka, Hublot in 2008, and Belmond in 2019. All these acquisitions combined with operational efficiency, retail strategy, and powerful brand campaigns led to incredible growth at LVMH, whose market cap has grown 20 times in the past 20 years. Their top-line revenues have increased to a staggering $86 billion. Then, in 2020, LVMH turned to America, to the literal jewel in the USA luxury market, Tiffany Co. Before LVMH made their plans for Tiffany known, Arnault looked at it and considered what challenges they may face when trying to buy such an iconic American brand, especially as a French company. He decided that they would build a factory in Texas for Louis Vuitton, and so in October 2019, they opened a factory promising 1,000 jobs for Americans. Who did Arnault invite to the opening of the factory? None other than US President Donald Trump, an ally who Arnault knew could be powerful in removing any government blocks to their attempt to get Tiffany's. LVMH wanted Tiffany's for several reasons. Firstly, it would increase their exposure in jewelry, which was the fastest growing business in the luxury sector. Second, it would complement their ownership of luxury watch brands Hublot and TAG Heuer. They also believed that the brand with the right capital and strategy was well placed to appeal to younger shoppers. So in 2020, LVMH finally agreed a deal to acquire Tiffany Co, and it's its largest acquisition to date in a deal worth an eye-watering $15.8 billion US. By 2022, Tiffany's profits had doubled from the pre-acquisition position to in excess of $1 billion. In recent years, LVMH have made some very clever brand partnerships to really leverage brand power, and not just on their own brands. Partnerships with Jay-Z, Beyonce, and the incredibly successful Fenty beauty partnership with Rihanna has taken LVMH products to a new generation. Now, with so many deals, legacy brands, family-owned icons, and with such a massive amount of money going around, I think it's very likely that we have left out some details or two. But that is a reasonably concise summary of the story of Bernard Arnault and LVMH. Today, LVMH employs more than 200,000 people and controls 75 different brands. They have 6,000 stores and more than $80 billion in annual revenue. They make more than $20 billion a year. The luxury industry is the largest export from France. Arnault is the world's richest man and turned an initial $15 million investment into a personal fortune of $221 billion. That's more than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. LVMH is a group of historic brands, many of which were owned by families for generations, and Arnault seems to have set LVMH up to be his own family legacy, with all 5 of his children having key leadership roles in the company. He is a master of acquisitions, has an incredible understanding of finance, stock swaps, tax, corporate structure. He understands brand power, strategy. He leverages economy of scale and strategic synergies. He knows how to get control and keep control. He does all this whilst thinking super long term. He was not the founder of anything. He has not invented or designed anything. And his aggressive approach to acquisition has led to the nickname the Wolf in Cashmere. But is he a wolf? He doesn't break up companies. He doesn't sell them for parts. He buys struggling brands with strong fundamentals and turns them around, invests in design, marketing and distribution, leveraging his group for economy of scale and typically leading to deep profits. That doesn't sound very wolf-like to me. So what next for Bernard Arnault? Well, right now he doesn't own Prada, Cartier, Rolex or Chanel. Not yet anyway. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.